I recently started the carnivore diet. I communicated to my wife about 2 weeks before I officially started this new diet. My wife said, "Okay, so what are your expectations of me going forward with this diet?" This comment that she made was in full supportive manner. It wasn't anything nasty. She simply wanted to know what the expectations were. She buys most of the groceries and cooks most meals, so it's a pretty damn legitimate question. Today we are going to be discussing why communication is vital and sharing expectations is crucial at home as well as in the workplace. Before we get into that, though, let me take a minute to introduce myself. I'm Steve Baumgartner, your host and founder of the Fire Forge Leader podcast. And my mission here today, and the mission of this podcast, is to serve you by providing knowledge, tools, and resources around leadership strategies on 3 primary battlefronts. Those battlefronts are simply in the workplace, out in the community, and most importantly, with your family. Now let's get to work.
Leaders are not born in a womb. They are forged through heat, pressure, and a whole lot of sweat. The Fire Forge Leader podcast serves the audience through exploring leadership at work, in the community, and with the family, using a practical perspective and real-life experiences from the host, Steve Baumgartner, and his guests in the Forge. Now, it's time to enter the Forge with the Fire Forged Leader.
Welcome back to the Fire Forge Leader podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Steve Baumgartner, and today we're diving deep into a topic that's close to my heart: leadership through communication. Specifically, how discussing expectations with your spouse at home can also translate to effective leadership in the workplace and out in your community. Leadership isn't just about what we do at work. It starts at home. The way we communicate and set expectations with our loved ones forms the foundation of how we lead elsewhere. Today, I want to share some insights and personal experiences on how my wife and I navigate through our marriage, really with expectations, and how those conversations have shaped my leadership style as well. My wife and I've probably talked about this before, I'm sure I have, but my wife and I have a morning routine, and we've been doing it for a couple of years now. We start by doing our own individual morning routines, a little bit of exercise. My wife likes to read in the morning, and those sorts of things right after we wake up. After that, we come together for coffee, and then we read the gospel together. It's our morning ritual, if you will. We spend about 30 minutes every morning during this time. And really, before we read the word, we share what our day looks like, what's going on. We share information that the other person may not have known. And what that does is it helps drive clear communication between the two of us. It's so easy for us to pass each other with how busy our schedules are. We're running kids all over all the time. I run this podcast. I have a full-time job. We do all sorts of things. But as a couple, we found out that we need this time. We need this time to calibrate and center on the mission of our family. It's so vitally important. As I stated earlier, though, I've recently started the carnivore diet. And just to put all your questions at ease, there's 2 reasons why I did this. Number 1, I wanted to cut some weight before I traveled to Australia next week. And I've also, in my research about the carnivore diet, my research has led me to believe that it's going to help with inflammation in my joints, which should be pretty good for jiu-jitsu overall. Now, this isn't the first time that I've done a drastic change of diet. Back in 2019, I actually dropped 80 pounds on the ketogenic diet. When I did that, though, I didn't communicate. Well, I didn't communicate at all with my wife before I started it. And that's something that I have a tendency to do. I started the diet abruptly, and I changed my entire eating plan without telling her what the plan was or how she should adapt to it. Now, my wife, she felt like she was left out of critical information. She would cook things, and I wouldn't eat part of the meal. Ultimately, it hurt her feelings pretty badly. I selfishly thought that I was making a decision for myself, and it didn't affect anyone else. But I couldn't have been more wrong with my assumption. My wife does most of the shopping, she does most of the cooking at home, and I really drove a huge stake into any of the plans that she was really in charge of. She had purchased food already, she had planned meals, and I had totally disregarded all of what she had done because I had my own plan. This round, I did things differently, though. I communicated with my wife differently this time. I told her a couple weeks ahead of time, and I did that because I wanted to show her that I have respect for the work that she puts in. She responded back to me, "What are your expectations of me with this diet?" Once again, she didn't say that out of any malice or anything else. She simply just she said that because she wanted to know. My response to her was simply, "I need your support." Then followed it up with, "I plan to go out and do my own shopping so that you don't have to worry about that. And I'm going to meal prep once a week. And I'll probably just grill it up on the Blackstone, chop it all up, and put it in containers." Now, something I don't know if I've ever shared about my wife, but my wife's love language is service. 100%. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Service is her love language. Service to her family is the most important thing that she does in her life. So believe me when I tell you this, that she wasn't going to have all that. Since then, she's went out and she found me some really nice glass meal prep containers with lockable lids, things that I can take to work, things that stack nicely in the fridge. And this week, she cooked all my food. And she has it placed on a special shelf in the fridge, stacked by the day. She's mixed multiple proteins. She's trying to give me some assortment. And quite frankly, I would have bought a pile of damn steaks and it would have been steak all week. And by the end of the week, I'd have been going, "God, I'm tired of steak." But she had that forethought and her love language being service that she really put some thought and effort into this for me because I asked her to support me. That was my expectation of her. Support, she's all in. There's no doubt about it. I can't stress enough the importance of clear communication and setting expectations around the house. And when I say expectations, I want to make sure that you don't misunderstand me. Setting expectations is not a disciplinary thing. It's not a managerial thing. In this instance, it's just simply knowing what we want out of each other. Now, see, we all expect things from each other, well, whether we want to admit it or not. But setting that expectation is actually a sign of respect. It's a sign of respect because you don't hold any unreasonable expectations. You don't hold any covert contracts for the people around you when you communicate things and you talk about the expectations of moving forward from the change, right? These conversations that my wife and I have ensure that we're on the same page. It works towards building trust in our marriage, and it ensures that we have a clear path going forward. Now, this concept is equally vital in the workplace. As leaders, it's our responsibility to communicate expectations clearly to our teams. When everyone knows what's expected of them, it minimizes confusion and it empowers individuals to take ownership of their roles. It's not about micromanaging, but about how setting a vision and allowing your team to rise to the occasion. Now, over time, I've talked a lot about expectations. I've talked a lot about communication. But I want to give you an example that's a little bit different. But it matches that example that I gave with my wife. So I want you to imagine for a moment this scenario. You are the plant manager of a windshield plant. Let's say that you make all of your windshields right now for Ford trucks. You just lost the contract with Ford. But good news is that you picked up an even better contract with Tesla. Now, these contracts, they're still in a confidential stage. So you hire a contracted team to come in over the weekend and retool all of the equipment so that you can now make 100% Tesla windshields. Once again, I don't know if this stuff happens. I am way out of my lane on this whole topic with windshields. I don't even know how a damn windshield's made. But anyways, let's keep on going with the example. You haven't told any of your people about this change. It's about the contracts. It's about confidentiality. Things are going to be better. But regardless, you haven't told anyone. And you can't expect that everybody's going to have the same viewpoint as you if you haven't talked to them. Now, on Monday morning, your crew comes in. They instantly recognize things are different. They instantly recognize that things are moved around. That things are not the same as they left it on Friday afternoon when they clocked out for the day. Where do you think your trust level is with your staff right now? These people who have your back day in and day out. The people who get the job done. My guess is that it's probably straight in the tank. How do you think the people who have the expertise for this change, the ops manager, the engineer, the other staff are feeling right now? I can tell you how they're feeling. They're feeling hurt that you don't trust them. You didn't ask for their opinion. You didn't ask for their expertise on how this change should have went. Now here's another idea, and I learned this one from a peer of mine.
You have just
this is a big
experienced
shout
the
out
heat
to Nate
and
here.
pressure of the forge. Remember,
Keep
words
your
without
team
action are
involved.
meaningless. Now, after the heat of the
Everything.
forge, shape your thoughts,
In
quench your
every
brain,
communication
then put your new tools to
possibly can.
use, adding to your leadership.
When you do
Tune
that,
in next week for
do it,
more
you're
lessons
actually
from the
building
forge.
relationships. You're building trust, and you're building your respect capital with them. Now that brings us to the same point, right? If there's something that's too confidential, if you have led up with this, telling them everything, keeping them involved in everything, if there's something that comes up that's too confidential, at this point you can simply tell them straight. Team, I'm sorry, but I can't tell you this one. This is a confidential matter. If I could, I certainly would. You guys know me. But I need you to trust me in this one. And at this point in time, you will have that equity of trust build up to carry you up and over this hump. Now, I want you to imagine this scenario in a little bit different light. Before you do the changeover for this project, it might be a week before, it might be 3 days before, I don't know. But before you do the changeover, you bring the team in, you shut the door, you talk to them. And you simply say, guys, this weekend there's going to be some things changing around here. Now, don't take this bad, all right? There's going to be some changes, but give it a second, and I'll try and clear this up for you. First, I'm not at liberty to tell you right now, due to the sensitivity of these changes. I wanted to tell you that first thing. But when you come in here Monday morning, things are going to look a little bit different, and I want you to know that now. I also want you to know that when you come in here Monday morning, that I'm going to be able to share more with you, because at that point it won't be confidential. What I can tell you right now, though, is that everyone's job is still safe, all right? Everybody gets to come back Monday morning and carry on like we have. So don't worry about that, okay? I don't want you guys to stress out about anything like that. Pay, benefits, hours, everything will remain intact. I can also tell you that overall, this change that we're going to be embarking on, overall, it's going to be great for our business. And it's going to make sure that we continue to do the things that make us the very best windshield manufacturers out there. So Monday morning, when you guys come in, I'd like you to meet me by machine number 1. I'll be standing there waiting for you because I'm excited about this change. But before we even turn on that first machine, I want to walk through all of the changes with you and clear up any questions that you might have. I want you to understand the why we're making this change. And I also want to make sure that I get your feedback. I want you to tell me every piece of feedback that you got so that we can make this the best change that we've ever done. And more importantly, that we make it together like we always do as a team. Now imagine what this does for your team. You have been honest with them and you held on to your integrity. You also diffused the initial worry that changes sometimes have on people that lead them to negative thought patterns, right? You told them that their pay, their job, their benefits, their hours were all going to be the same. They don't have to worry about those things now. You've also validated them, and you showed them that you value their input through that walk on Monday morning. You also shared your expectation. You shared your expectation and helped them to understand what it was so that they could move forward through the weekend and into Monday morning. Sometimes expectations need to be short. Sometimes they need to be longer. But this time you shared your expectations so that they could move through their weekend, enjoy their family, and come back Monday morning to meet with you and understand the changes. Now, what you didn't do is you didn't keep them in the dark. You didn't give them a lot more information, but you didn't keep them in the dark. But I guarantee you that when they come in Monday morning, they are going to be engaged at a high level. They're going to be anticipating. They're going to be excited. They're going to be ready for seeing new things. Communication is vital for all relationships. It leads to shared expectations that are known by both parties. And we need this so that we're not sitting in a place of covert contracts. Even when you can't tell your family or your team everything, tell them something. This helps them rest easier in your leadership style. And they don't have to question your integrity as a leader. Thank you for joining me once again today on the Fireforge Leader podcast. I hope you found these insights valuable once again. Remember, leadership starts at home, and by mastering it there, we can lead more effectively in our workplaces and our communities. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others who might benefit. And follow the Fireforge Leader on social media for more insights and inspiration on leadership and personal growth. Until next time, keep forging the leader that's within you.